Good morning, Sanbonani Dumelang, Abshen.
Hello,
Sarah at the Foundation for Human Rights. We're still waiting for others to come in the room. Welcome. We'll be playing a short video which is focusing on this topic we're dealing with today, human rights clubs in schools under Masiba Misane. As we're waiting 8 minutes to go, we'll just play a short video. You'll enjoy, get settled, get your coffee, your water, go get a short comfort break before we start at 11. I'm with my team here, Zanele Ngobo, Robert Tyrell, ITAJ behind the scenes. So we'll be rolling soon. Thank you.
I'm not sure if it's my network or the video is not playing properly and there's no sound. Am I the only one?
No, you're not the only one. I think from my side also, the video is just not playing right.
Sarah, we can't hear the audio of the video and the video is not playing properly since you started playing it.
constitutional rights, education.
Yeah, well, your squad members, we want you to feature all of your skills and talents at the Hectic Hangout because you know we love to have some fun here at HO3. But whilst having fun, we need to make sure that we are being safe. Well, squad members, that is why it is Safety Week, and it is important for us to talk about safety and also take a closer look at our rights and how they help keep us protected and safe. Well, right now, squad members, we have a human rights educator chatting to us. She's on the line right now from the Foundation for Human Rights. Her name is Sarah. Sarah, welcome to the Hectic Hangout.
What's up, squad members? Sarah in the house. Yeah, the Foundation for Human Rights. Yes,
Sarah is in the house.
And fighting since 1996. Currently, we have an exciting program for children. Yes, for children, and a program that I run for vulnerable groups. We launched it in 2019, and we've been around the Gauteng province promoting it.
That is great. Tell us a bit more about what you guys have.
Currently, we have an exciting program for children. Yes, for children, and a program that I run for vulnerable groups. We launched it in 2019, and we've been around the Gauteng province promoting it.
That is great. Tell us a bit more about what you guys have been doing.
Oh, it's exciting. With this program, we've been going to school using the animated version of the Constitution, 2 to 5 minutes video clips that are, having cartoons and someone who has experienced a particular right in a positive and negative or negative way, telling children about their rights. Normally, the Constitution looks thick and intimidating to an ordinary user, but we have made it so friendly and fun so that human rights are cool, not boring, and are even happening for the squad members out there in the country. So yeah, the foundation has been there since 1996 doing this work on promoting constitutional rights, education, and awareness all over.
That is so great. I mean, you guys have been helping squad members out there know a little bit more about their rights. And you mentioned there are so many rights, but what would you say is the most basic children's right?
Wow, safety is important as we speak. It's in the Constitution, the right for children to be protected and live in a safe environment. That's one of the important rights. The second right is the right to education. And the third right is the right to access information, such as the platform that you are using to educate about rights so that children can know about these rights. And absolutely, especially the squad members all over the country, they must go to Keep It Constitutional.
Make 2022. Apa ni? Kincim. Make kincim. I mean, apa ni?
About so weird. They go to have a meaning to me meeting us with that.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please give us a few moments. We're having technical difficulties. We should be resolved soonest. Thanks.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome everyone. Networks dropping here. We're also aware that others also are having a challenge with network. Anyway, welcome everyone. I hope you were all here when we were playing that short video, which we did during lockdown with SABC 3 for the learners in schools. At the time they were locked with their families, their cousins, mothers, and their fathers as well. So we needed to keep them preoccupied. So thank you very much for joining. Let's just take a round in the room just to show our face who is here. I'll be the one to start showing my face. I hope my camera can work.
Malele Izala.
My name is Sarah. I work as the manager for vulnerable groups at the moment. I've been working for the foundation for the past 10 years, dealing with a range of programs that promote constitutional rights education and broadly, involving largely people who are referred to as vulnerable, which are women or children, people affected by race and xenophobia, farm workers, farm dwellers, the elderly, people of advanced LGBTIQ plus persons, people living with disability, youth, including youth in prison, and those that are living in peri-urban areas like townships and informal settlements, and those that are in rural areas. I will tell you why I mention all these categories, because our work locates itself in those areas. Quite often when I receive a case here at the foundation on someone being violated, I'm asked, is this person falling under a vulnerable group? Then, I have to motivate this person under a vulnerable group on this category as mentioned. So just a way of continue. Thank you so much for your time. We'll just take turns. In fact, I'll mention the names, like as you in the lineup here, I'll read the name and if you are not speaking, I'll read through the list of participants here to just line up the introduction. Lucia will start, and then Anele, Chamaine, and Guaida. So and tell us a little bit more about yourself. Anele, you can follow if Lucia is not yet ready, and then Chamaine be ready, and Guaida.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anele, surname Kasana. I'm from Langa Community Advice Services, the coordinator for the Gender-Based Violence Free Zone program. Thank you, everyone. I'm with my colleagues. All the monitors are here. My managing director, Robert Sandana, is here. The team leader, Siwe Chaba, is also here. And all the monitors are here with us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Anela. If you don't mind, show us your face, Chamaine, Guaida, Timakato. You follow each other in that line, in that order. Anyone who's ready amongst the four to introduce themselves and your location.
Yes, we are ready. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, it's Klaisani Kwashu and like Melembe from Youth Zone in Guyana. We advocate for youth and women program and human rights. We also advocate for GBV and femicide around the villages in Guyana.
Thank you. Chamaine, Guaida, Dimakato, Gideon, be ready. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. The person speaking now, we cannot hear them. While they are still arranging, we'll hand over the microphone to someone else.
So I'm Sana Kanyisika, and we are rated in Portal. Thank you.
Thank you, Guaida. Dimakato?
Okay. Hello. My name is Dimakato Mukoni from Seed Foundation, South Africa, in Botshabelo State, the GBV monitor. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dimakato. And then Guaida, Gideon Ritumeleng, Javu, Kanyisa, Kumutso, Lily. If I've mentioned your name, just introduce yourself. Don't wait for the other person.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gideon Mualusi. I'm from Bojana Legal Advice Center in Rustenburg, Northwest Province. I'm a coordinator there in the office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Komutoko Mabe from Limpopo, from Boys and Girls Educational Foundation and a project coordinator of GBV and Femicide. Mas Bambisa project. I'm with my colleague here by the name of William Chokwe.
Great.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lili Machaluta. I'm from Seed Foundation here in Free State. I'm the coordinator of Masibambisa.
So now I'll give the two people. We are about 50 in the room, or about 40. So I'll give two people to introduce themselves. So if you are lucky in the two that will introduce, and then we'll go directly to the program because of time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mohadi Malebana from an organization called Get Informed Youth Development Center in Tembisa. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Itumeleng Maloka from Tosunga Baninga. It's an organization that deals with gender-based violence and femicide, and it's in Gauteng South. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Definitely all of us will get the opportunity to speak. We hear that Humoto Komape from the Girls and Boys and Girls Foundation, they cannot be on audio because of connection. They are here. Charmaine is also here from Get Informed. No. Yeah, they're having network challenges. Zipporah is struggling with network in the Legal Advice Center of Lichabong. Sis Noma is also struggling with network. Lucia or Lolo says they can't hear Sarah. I want to confirm that you can all hear me. Anyway, we have all received the program. Just one or two people, they can unmute and say yes. And the person who background noise, can they unmute the back? A problem? Have we all received the program? Okay, Loiso, have you received the program? Lolo?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Can I just kindly ask that Lucia mutes her audio, because we can't hear what you say when her audio is unmuted.
What's your request, Lolo?
No, Gogo, if Lucia can just guide her mute and unmute button, because we can't hear you when she's unmuted because of her background noise.
Yes, I've requested that we all unmute. And my question is, Lolo, have you received the program? Because you are online.
Yes, I've received the agenda and the email that you sent. Is that the program? Is that what you're referring to when you're talking about the program?
Yes, where I was welcoming everyone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Lucia, if there's anyone who can call Lucia, tell them to unmute. Robert Zanele, please call Lucia and tell Lucia to unmute. Thank you. And everyone that is on is not mute. Mute. Tell them to mute themselves or unmute so that we can hear each other.
Program arrivo.
Hi, Coco. Can the host mute everyone at once, if possible? The host mute everyone, and then you can unmute yourself as the facilitator. Please, is that possible? Because it seems like they can't mute themselves. Please accept.
Noted, Anele.
Hello, Coco, and everyone. I haven't received any email with regards to the program.
Okay. Robert, can you send the program to Zela Tempofu?
I can do that. Please put your email address on the chat and I'll send you the program.
So in the program, we have what we call virtual rules. And there is about muting and unmuting. So we should just be cognizant of the fact that our microphones are closed, are on mute when other people are speaking, so that we can have a fruitful engagement. Number two, please don't sign up for these courses if you know that you have other engagements, because you will be juggling, and our expectation is that you are here. You rather delegate someone in your team, which is why we said this program, it's about teamwork, having GBVF monitors that need to be empowered to do this work. So you can allocate them to participate, so that you can do the other activities that are keeping you preoccupied in the middle of these Zoom dialogues or empowerment sessions. The disadvantage of being online, learning, is that we sometimes think that we can just have login and then disappear or do other things, and then we are registered that way. But this engagement requires active participation. If we say Nompilo Madlala is in the room, we will want you to be here, Nompilo, fully, so that we hear your voice, and you can later tell us what you learned from this session, and beyond this session, what you have implemented following this session. So we expect maximum participation. And if you know that you have another engagement, you should alert everyone that you are around with or working with that you are in a session where you are expected to participate actively, not passively. If you are not able to play that role, in the chat here, you can say, I request to be excused, because we don't want to hold you into account that you attended the workshop, but later you couldn't implement what we were talking about. So this program is about working with learners in schools, and therefore, if you work with learners, you need to be an active participant as an educator or as a facilitator. So you cannot miss any of their attention. Is there any other expectation? I see a hand that is up here. Uhuru Mbele, your hand is up. Uhuru. Okay, how we're gonna work today is to learn more about setting human rights clubs in schools as part of the Masibambisane, creating gender-based violence and femicide-free zones. Is there anyone who doesn't know this program? I expect there could be 2 or 3 organizations that do not know that they've just joined. This could be Berlin Advice Office and Port St. John's Advice Office. If there's another 3rd or 4th organization that don't know, but roughly these are the 2 or 3 organizations. And the 3rd one is God is with us. Those 3 organizations that are in the Eastern Cape. Why they don't know is because they are just focusing on growing food in an environmentally friendly way. They are growing organic food and keeping bees as a response to curb gender-based violence from the issue of food side. So we just working on them on that side of the GBV program, but we have decided to include them here so that we can see if this is a program that they would like to also implement in their schools. However, the rest of the people in the room here, they have been part of Masibambisane, some of them for 2 years, some of them for at least 8 months, those that have just been contracted last year to this year. So in the Masibambisane program, we have a component that deals with schools, where we are supposed to create clubs in schools that monitor any form of violations happening in those schools. We have requested you to submit at least 1 school whom you are going to work with just to start the process as a pilot. Earlier, my colleague had asked for 4 schools, which is Leonard, but now looking at the available resources and the capacity that you might have and the knowledge, is that we start with working with 1 school and therefore progressing to more if the model works. And if also, importantly, you understand what you are supposed to do. Because if you don't understand, then we cannot say Masibambisane has been implemented holistically if the component of the school is or of the schools is not included. We have group activities for the program where all of us are expected to be active in the groups and come to report. Hence, I've requested that if you are in the session, we expect you to be active and participate on what we are going to do today. So with regards to internal arrangements at FHR, who is in charge of the Human Rights Clubs program in schools? It's me, Sarah. But if there's anything outside of these clubs which you want to know about, then you can ask the other program managers and officers that you are working with at the foundation. But when you have a question around the human rights clubs in schools, I am the person that you can talk to. I'm going just to show you a slide. I'm going to show you a slide of the activities that we're gonna engage with. We'll start with a group exercise where our IT will allocate you a room where you will go and you will answer these questions. So we will all be in 5 groups, and group 1 will answer the question, which is what is human rights education? That is group 1. We'll be going into rooms. We want your rooms to be working. It's not time to hide when you're doing this, because we will want to know who was taking notes, who is then reporting on what happened in the breakaway. So group A will answer the question, what is human rights education? And then group B is answering the questions. Have you been in a human rights education session? If yes, explain more. And if no, say why. Number 3 is, why is human rights education important? That is group 3. Group 4 will be telling us what is the difference between constitutional rights education and human rights education. Then group 5 will be talking to the question on, are you a member of a club? If your answer is yes, motivate why. And even if your answer is no, motivate why. Is there anyone with a question? Is it clear? The questions are all in the slide in your screen. If you are in group 1 or A, your question will be, what is human rights education? You get someone who will write down the answers from all of you who will be talking in the group. And then you find one person to report. We request that everyone responds to this question, so that if you are 5 in the group, we want to know what Khumuto says, what Gideon says, what Mohadi said, what Charmaine said, so that everyone gets an opportunity to speak. It's not a question of, oh, it's the same, my answer is the same as what Mohadi said. No. Immediately when that question is being asked, just write it down honestly in your corner where you are, and then give the feedback to the facilitator. Then the rapporteur will then give us the answers when we come back on session. So can we just have 10 minutes for answering these questions? Not 10, let's have just 5 minutes per group, which means 1 minute per person. Each group has about 5 to 6 people. And then maybe after 7 minutes or 8 minutes, we come back and get the report backs. Is it clear? The chats are available to share any insights if you want to ask a question. Can you take us to our breakaway rooms? So please join the rooms. They are open now. You should see them in your phones, in your screen. We have at least 8 people per group. I think we will need just 10 minutes for this session. We'll come back. It's 10:30 now. We'll come back at 10:40. Palisa, please join. Ronessa, join. Lili Machalota, please join. If we are on the road, you can't participate fully. Please register your interest in the chat that you cannot be fully active, and then you will be excused. It's not a bad thing. It's just to show honesty that you are engaged in multiple activities, and then in future you will, bring other people if you are engaged beyond this.
Hi, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sarah, do you need to be in any of the groups?
Yeah, just put me on room 5.
Room 5, the last one.
The last one, Elma.
I'm assigning you.
Yeah.
I'll assign you now. And what time should I end it?
No, don't assign me. Just leave me rooming.
Leave you here. Okay, yeah. That's fine.
Kumotso Komake and Elma Shango, please join. Lili Machalota, please join. If you can't join, just let us know. As we can see, you cannot join. Thank you. See you in 11:41. Tembani, Khumutso, Ntombenhle, Uhuru Mbele. Have you just joined? We are in group sessions now. And Khumutso, why are you not in groups? Tembani, Khumutso, have you just joined? Uhuru? We are in groups now. Did you just arrive? Let me know so that we can allocate you a group. Lindiwe has apologized, is not feeling well. We'll just listen and be part of the post. Ntombenhle, Khumutso, why are you not in groups? Khumutso, join a group, Komape. Okay, let's all come back together, back to the main room. Thank you very much. Okay, let's close the room. Let's all come back.
It takes 60 seconds for the group to close. They'll join in 40 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Uhuru, you had not joined a group. You remained on the main room, Uhuru. Okay, we can start reporting back now. So group 1, be ready to report.
Yes, comrade. Must we go ahead or must we wait for everybody else to join back?
You can start is group 1. Yes, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gogo. So group 1, we had the question, what is human rights education? And in our discussions, these are the answers that came out the most.
So who was the facilitator
What
in the
I'm
group?
saying, hello, Koksara, I'm from outside. There's no electricity. So I'm in and out because of the network. We have not been having electricity since morning. So I've jotted the question down. I don't know if it will work if I answer the question by myself and forward them because electricity is.
So Uhuru Mbele is Noma. We noted Noma that they don't have electricity, struggling with connection. Okay. We are not sure which Uhuru Mbele and Noma Mbele are one and the same person. So continue, Lolo.
All right, thank you, comrade. So we noted that what human rights education is educating people on their rights and values. And also there was one that said that it also speaks to the dignity, it's helping people understand their rights, and it speaks to addressing the dignity of humans, specifically equality, freedom, justice, and dignity of a person or a people. And also somebody said it was an identity of a human and their rights, and having access to sorry, one second, have access to basic education and training and other rights like access to water, to electricity, to housing, etc., as per our constitution. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you so much, Group A. So there's 3 points you should note, all of us must note, that human rights education is a process or a way in which we learn about our rights, which Noma, Lolo has presented the right to access basic, services such as education, healthcare, but is the process, is the way in which we learn. Some of us learn by seeing things, hearing, acting them out, and then we learn that there is this right, but before we learn, there's a process, there's something that happens, the way in which we deliver the message, the act of discovering that knowledge. It's a process of how we learn about these rights. And the one way it can be through communicating the message, and then we learn, oh, these are rights. Or this is a tree, because sometimes people may not know what is this in front of me or under my feet. But it's when somebody alerts me to that fact, then I become aware of this element of life or of myself. Thank you so much, Group A. Group B, have you been in a human rights education session? If yes, explain. If no, why?
Okay, I am going to represent for Group B. I am Nompilo, and most of us said yes. And the answers that people said, the first one said the human rights talks about things, values, rights that you need to support you as a human, what protects you and what guides you. The rights is equity, religions, and etc. And the other one said, again, more information about the government involvement in the human rights sector, the rights that people have and the power they have to access those rights. And the other one said, many people knows their rights, especially young people. But the most challenging thing is that they do not know the responsibility that comes after those rights.
Yeah, so the majority said yes. I've noted a power dynamics and the way in which more information can be accessed about rights that people have. So if you've been to a human rights education class, definitely you would have learned about those rights, but the responsibilities is something that is missing, and the issue of power dynamics. And we talk about power in the rights language. There's people who are called duty bearers. So the duty means umsebenzi, the job, to make sure that the rights are respected and upheld. So those are normally, stakeholders that are in government or in parastatal institutions like Abo Eskom and the railway line. Those institutions, even Chapter 9 institutions. So those are institutions which are called duty bearers institutions, and then the population normally is called AMA rights holders, who should then get the duty bearers to account and deliver on those responsibilities that they have. So thank you very much, Group B. And why education, human rights education is important? Group C?
Who is presenting us as Group 3?
Thank you very much. Can we get the responses from Group 3? Can anyone who is available speak on behalf of Group 3? Apology accepted.
Hello. Group C is represented by Moloko from Hori Community Radio. Hello.
Just go and present, comrade.
All right. I'm saying it is important because it makes people or community to understand its concept, e.g. human rights like gender equality and freedom of speech. And it makes everyone to understand their basic rights. And it also helps individual to alleviate abuse. If you know your rights, you can't abuse someone who's next to you. And it also helps people to understand what is wrong and what is right. And also it provides knowledge.
Okay, we have lost the presenter for Group C. Can someone finish their lines in the same group? So basically what you're learning is that if your repertoire cannot talk or is somehow cut, you should fill them in as part of the group. Okay, Group D, what I've picked up on Group C is that human rights education is important. It makes people understand their rights better. It's an enabler. There's keywords like understanding, provide, help, make. Those words are helping us to understand that the education is a process in which people learn about their rights. And it's important because it's through that process they will be able to understand and exercise their rights, such as gender rights or gender equality rights and other rights that people and values that people have, which also are in tandem with their responsibilities. So it's the process, the understanding, the skills that you encompass as a human rights educator to impart this knowledge, this language. Most of you work in communities where when you start to talk about gender rights and gender equality, they will think that you are taking over powers of certain, people in the communities. But your nudge, your technique is the methods, the skills, the knowledge that you have to impart this knowledge. There's different ways in which you can tell me that I'm wrong. And in this narrative, we look for the best way in which you can share the information about rights, the best ways in which people may not find your message offensive, which is something we'll explore in the next session. So Group D, what is the difference between constitutional rights education and human rights education?
Mlungu, nginenkinga elokhuzana. Isiphinde yathula. Bashilo futhi.
Hello. Hello. Miss Facilitator, are you in? Siyevakala.
We can hear you.
In our group, we asked Anele to present for us, so we don't know whether he's got a technically problem. I don't know, because we asked Anele to present us. Anele, are you here?
Yo, uxolweni bethunani. I'm sorry.
Yena tata.
From Group D, our question was, what is the difference between the constitutional rights, human rights education? We first had a question, what is the constitutional right and what is the human rights? So our participants did present, but we we are on Zoom, so we can't hear each other clearly and all that stuff. But we, first of all, when it comes to the human rights are for all human beings. They speak for everyone who's a human being within the country. So, and then we said the constitutional rights for the supreme power. It's the supreme law. They mostly talk about power, states, and citizenship. Also, one other thing we saw during the start, it talks about also the human rights are very practical. because we are human beings. Everyone, as we said, human beings they were done for us to live in a peaceful environment. And what else am I leaving behind?
I can
they are done to protect us. Yeah, I'll also ask my group to add more.
Yes,
because we asked someone to scribe. I didn't scribe quite very well, but that's what I got from the group. Between the difference between constitutional rights and human rights.
Thanks, Anel. I think I can add on that. It's Jabulani at Dahakral Advice Center. When coming to the constitutional rights, we look at the constitutional rights. It's a rights that are gazetted by the government. There's a document. Can you hear me? Can I continue? Hello? Everybody here?
Yes,
Can I
we can hear
continue?
you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
We can hear
you. To add on what Anela said, I'm saying that constitutional rights are kinds of rights which are compiled by the states or by the government. They are put together. There's a book. There's a book that they are writing down to the book. They are gazetted. There's a constitutional rights, and they are governed by the.
I think, Jabu, you have summarized it nicely. Constitutional rights education is education for rights focusing on a particular constitution of a particular country.
Yes.
And they are not universal, those rights. For example, the Constitution of the US, the right to life is not enshrined in their constitution. It differs per state. In South Africa, the right to life is in the constitution. Yes. But human rights education, it's education for rights with an understanding that they are universal.
Universal, yeah.
They apply to every human being. I think Anele made that point. Yes. So you educate people about the fact that human rights apply to every human being, irrespective of where that person is. But constitutional rights education, you educate people about the rights of the constitution for that particular country. Like if you are in Mozambique, you can use the Mozambican constitution to teach people about rights for people in that country, which you cannot move those provisions to another country. So that's the difference between constitutional rights education and human rights education. Group number 5. Are you a member of the club? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, colleagues. Good day. My name is Lungile Masuku from FAMSA Pietermaritzburg. I will be representing Group E. And our question was, are you a member of the club? If your answer is yes, motivate why. And if your answer is no, motivate why. So for most of our members, we were not exposed to the clubs because our line of work our scope of work didn't allow us to, but we are hoping and willing to get more information on this session that we are having today. And for Uzwelake, he has worked with school clubs around Gauteng province, and he worked closely with Legal Resource Center. He also shared that they were working to fight violence in school, and his responsibility was to introduce a smart way for learners to report without being victimized. And they also worked with FAMSA on psychosocial support, and they also introduced legal aspects once the case is reported and when they will do as Human Rights Center. And for Palisa, she couldn't add up more, but she was also exposed to school clubs in primary school as well as high schools. And that's all we have as Group E. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you did hear very well what I asked to be part of your presentation when you you give the feedback. So important skill in educating people is that you must listen. And listening is a skill, and you can learn as a human being. And the last group demonstrated that quite well. They were able to report individually as to what each person knows about a club, or have they been a member of a club, not necessarily a human rights club, but we hear that people then went further to then talk to the issue that they are or have been involved in clubs that are linked to schools. But in any way, many people are involved in clubs. Some are in soccer clubs, Stockfell, burial clubs, and all sorts of clubs that they are, bringing people together. I'll talk about listening as a skill later, which is an important component in doing this work. Without that skill, you will make a lot of mistakes in implementing, which we have to deal with it later. So the important skill in educating people is that you must be able to listen. What I also picked up is that in your responses, you're all telling me about different rights. You're not telling me about how the education happens for these people to access those rights. So I did pick up a process way, but not the methods which you use, because education, there's two types of education. It's called informal and formal education. In the formal or informal education, there's different topics that we learn. We learn agriculture, we learn social science, we learn geography, but there's methods that are being used to educate us in those subjects. And human rights is a subject. Human rights is a subject. And the education part is the method in which this subject is delivered. So I want you to make a distinction between human rights and education. And here we're still talking about human rights education. So educating people, we're using certain skills, tools at home. In the informal education setup, we learn by doing things ourselves. Could it be cleaning? Which means at the end of the day, we will have cleaned. The ultimate goal will have swept the 4 floors or cleaned the floors. But how? By mixing water and soap and getting a mop or a cloth. So the recipe to clean is having a combination of these tools, so that at the end of the day, you can have the subject that you're addressing being dealt with. We're moving on to the next slide, which is also going back to the same groups where you were in. And tell us if you are a member of a club. If yes, what motivates you? I've made an example that, clubs are different. As there's a soccer club, there's a church club with church choir, which is a club, Stockfell, burial club. If you are a member, it talks to you. We're not talking about something else. We start with ourselves first. Are you a member of a club? If yes, that's group number 1, motivate. Why? And if your answer is no, say why. And why we're posing this question is that this education we're doing is not the one where you come and sit and then someone tells you. It's an education where you learn together. In that learning, you as the Masibambisane branch or as the facilitator, you take the backward seat where you learn more from the people than to tell them. So you learn more from them and then you take action based on what you are learning. So the first group, are you a member of a club? The second one, do you know any club in your community that you belong to as a soccer club or a netball club? That's the second group. And what do they do? Number 3, what is the structure of the club? Is there a coach or a secretary? What? Give us the structure. which members, there's chair, deputy chair. Give us the structure of that club. Number 4, group 4, what are the different roles? I see people are moving around. I'm seeing cars in the screen. If you are busy and not fully in the room here, you are welcome to excuse yourself. This is an open, safe learning space to move around. What are the different roles that people play in clubs or positions? And then number 5, why it's important to have a human rights club in school. Group 5, ignore the last question, which is what is a human rights club, which goes to the next slide. So these are your questions in the different, the people that reported now, they are not supposed to be the rapporteurs for this session. You need to alternate the roles. If you took notes previously, you are 5 to 8 in the group. Now we change the roles. We need new chairperson, we need new rapporteurs, we need new scribers, so that everybody take a responsibilities. And that's how clubs are run. There's no one chairperson for the whole year or for the next 4 years. The roles, they rotate so that everybody can learn. I will ask our IT to take us to the breakaways again. We will do 10 minutes quickly, and then after 10 minutes, we take a comfort break. Now it's 10 past 12. We will work in the breakaways up to 22 past 12. And then at 22 past 12, we go to a short comfort break for 5 minutes, which is, we're gonna be back at 12:27. This is now time management, which is important when you run the groups, because in a club, when they give you activities in school, they won't give you 5 hours. They'll give you 45 minutes and you have to do the work that needs to be done that is impactful. Thank you, IT. We're ready for the groups. Selaka, we know your network challenges. IT, take us to rooms. IT.
Do you know any club in your community, areas such as soccer or netball club? You come up with a link-based school.
Sorry, colleagues, our IT is going to take us soon to breakaways. It means we should take the comfort break at 12:29 and be back at 12:34. Please join the breakaways quickly. Catherine, please join. Domentle, join your group. Annelisa Mpho. Youth, please join. Jabu, join. Please join your breakaways. Mohodi, William, Zolakem, Mamochabi, Pakiso, join your group. Mushe. Mpho Itumeleng, Mamochabi, Annelisa, Langeli Youth. You can join your group. Mamo, Chabi, and Mpho, are you having network problems? I see you are not in the room. I'm aware Uhuru has a challenge. Skubuzo Mkize, you are not in any room. Are you having a challenge with joining? Please give us a message on the chat.
Sorry, Koksara, I got kicked out. I'm in group 1. Please, can you put me back in?
Okay, IT, please attend to Mpho.
Group 1.
Sarah,
One.
I'm in group 5. Can you please put me back? I don't know how to get back there because I was in that group.
Okay, IT, Skumbuzo, group 5, Mpho, group 1.
Yes.
Hi, Sarah, they've all been assigned.
Okay, you can unmute Skumbuzo. Thank you.
Morning, how are you? Good, it's AJ here from Foundation. How's it going? Good, man. Yeah, this machine's working fine now, but we're going to leave the accounting and let disabled for now. Sarah, when should I open the group again? When should I let them back?
They're coming back at 12:29.
29, perfect. Hi, Sarah. Everybody will be out in another 40 seconds.
Thank you very much. We're back on session. I hope you also managed to take a comfort break. Can we start with Group A?
Hi everyone, I'm Nokwanda Dlamini from FAMSA Pietermaritzburg, and so for us in Group A, we had a lot of yes, that there are people who are in clubs, and the reasons are being in a club, it helps them to learn from each other and share business ideas. It creates a sense of belonging. There's a safe space. It's a form of distress where everyone gets to share their thoughts and ideas. It gives discipline, and there's a share of common goals, values. It helps an individual to develop skills to engage with diverse people, and it also empowers one with leadership skills and networking. We also had those that gave a no. Reason being is that for them, they felt that there was no safe space, there was lack of protection, and the members were toxic. And also there was a fear of the unknown and sharing the same space with those people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Group A. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I think you've put it nicely. All of us are a member, or some of us have an experience of being a member of a club, and the reasons why. It's a sense of belonging, but also there's interest to being a club, to being in a club, because we want also to fulfill some of our needs that we have at a personal level. So being a club member, it's a personal decision linked to a personal need. So when we talk about clubs and the formation of such, there must be some kind of personal interest based on needs, largely in the human rights language. when we talk of needs, we talk of the rights that are there already, like a need for food, something that we cannot live without, a need for living in a safe and protected environment. They need to be and access those health services. They need to have shelter, to be warm. So it's all needs and interest based. Ne? So thank you very much, Group A. Group B.
Yes, group two, I'm reporting. Can you tell everyone to unmute so that I can present group two?
Can we all mute?
Please, so I can.
Muted everyone. Can we get the presenter to speak for group two?
Yes, I'm about to present Shaisan from group two. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Group two, the question for group two, do you know any club in your community or area? AG, soccer or netball? Yes. In our group, all of us were engaged in this one. Firstly, I'll start with one group or with one. They have an organization, an organization called Youth in Action. It's called Standard Youth in Action. It's based in Guyana. They are addressing issues that affect young people, like education opportunities, like your bursaries, funding for particular field that they want to start, that they want to pursue their studies. They also address unemployment issues, like identifying employment opportunities in the community and the nearest town, and also mobilize the prominent figures in the community who are in prominent position to come and motivate and also assist young people with opportunities or career guide of some kind. We also have another organization called Izimbali Zesizwe. This is for young girls. They teach young girls how to be women, how to behave as human, and also respect, and also to abstain from sexual activities until marriage. We also have another organization or another community club called, it's a soccer team, United Brothers FC. It's a soccer team. They also deal with mentorship, also teach young people, young boys how to treat young girls or women in general. We also have Pumulong Football. They also do mentorship and life skills, and also empowerment young people in their soccer team. And we also have Muhodi Young Tigers. They also train young boys and girls with soccer skills or soccer teams also, and also life skills. And they also promote coexistence amongst these young people, of which are boys and girls. We also have Mpopo Main Youth Club that also have a netball and soccer team, and also teach these young boys and girls to look after themselves, and also teach them entrepreneurial skills, how to start their small businesses. And generally, almost everyone in the group, they are involved, or they know a soccer team or a soccer club or a youth club in their community. In brief, almost everyone in the group is involved in either is involved or knows of a club in their community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, comrade. I think it's well said. And here, we all in one way or another involved in some kind of a club where with common interest, we are engaging in a range of activities. Let's get to hear what are the structures of these clubs. Group 3.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, it's fine. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. We just pick up two clubs. The first one is the netball club, which is had a founder. Founder is a person who started the team. The secretary, a person who is responsible for the meetings. A chair lady, the person who makes sure everyone is meeting, is going according to the order. Then we have a treasurer, a person who is responsible for the finances. A coach, a person who coaches the team, making the team disciplined and know how to work together. The medical department, the one who is responsible for the first aid kit. And the second club is a social club, the one we call a stockfeller. The stockfeller has a chairperson. A chairperson, the role of the chairperson is the role of the chairperson is the person who makes the people to do things in order. The deputy chairperson is the one who steps in when the chairperson is not around, so that they can continue with whatever they are doing. We have the treasurer who collects the money and deposits the money to the banks and report back every month how much they did make. And the secretary who is responsible for the meetings and the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Group 3, there's some kind of titles that are allocated for clubs, depending what the purpose of the club. If it's a soccer club, the structure will be, there will be maybe a founder, there will be a chair, there will be a coach, there will be a treasurer, there will be the medical department in charge of making sure that if there's injuries, people are taken care of. Similarly, if it's a social club, there's some kind of a structure and everybody have their role. We have highlighted these roles, but group 4, give us more. What are the different roles or positions people are in and why they're important, these roles? This is how you will form clubs in schools. It doesn't mean that if you bring the idea of a club, you then become a chair, you become a treasurer, you decentralize power. The club has to function even if you are not there. The club must have its own activities, run like a fully fledged social club or human rights club. It's depending on the financial, small club of stock. It must run on its own without you being there. They must have a secretary to document activities of the club, so that each and every meeting has a report, which is where we're going to now. Number 4, what are these roles that people occupy in the clubs? Group 4.
Good day. Igama lam Lusindisa Keke. I'm from the Northern Cape and the Sisterhood Heroines. So I'm the spokesperson for Group 4, and hopefully I'm enlightening your day. So the different roles that are there in a club, we then in a group decided that 1, there needs to be a chairperson. The chairperson, it's the person, or rather it's the head of the house, the person that is giving permits to funds being released every now and then, approving the programs that need to be there in the club, or rather the programs that need to be implemented in the club itself. And then we have your secretary. The secretary is the person that is taking account on the minutes that are being there. At times you get to notice that there are meetings that are being held, your AGMs, your meetings, just to check on progress towards the organization. So the secretary is there to take those minutes. And every now and then, what usually happens now is that in the absence of people, the secretary will tell the apologies and come up with the structure of a certain meeting that was held and get people understanding the progress of the organization itself. And then we have the treasurer, the bank of the organization, Ching that side. She or he is taking accountability of the money that goes in or the money that goes out of the organization. And she makes it a point that it is used accordingly to what was specified towards that certain program. Unless, of course, there's a situation where it needs to overlaps, and then again the secretary, the treasurer itself comes back again to make it a point that those programs are being implemented as much as they were supposed to be implemented. Not to forget the fact that for the board members, or rather the club head office, for it to be, not to forget that we still need to have a PR, someone that needs to account for our social media platforms, because currently we are in the 4IR. It gives us the power or the knowledge to make it a point that other people are getting what we think is proper for them. So we need a PR and the administrator for everything that is happening towards the club itself. And not to forget the fact that for the club to be sustainable and reliable, we need those people that are in the structure, the proper structure of the club, to be able to take accountability, to be reliable, to make it a point that they communicate frequently so that the club keeps going on and it serves the best motive that it had initially. Thank you very much.
I think well said, Sindisa. I've noted the communication aspect of it, and the fact that you're nudging in the ability for the club to organize it as itself without any dependency on an external power structure or individual. And that's what the project is about, giving power or releasing power to the young people in their communities, in schools, to take agency for the right language, and you can play a role of supervising and ensuring that the activities that go in there, they are according to our code of practice, which is I'm going to share it perhaps in the last slide that I have. And then group number 5, why it's important to have human rights clubs. Now, we're not talking generally about just any club, but the human rights clubs then.
Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Is representing group 5. So Palisa mentioned that they are important so that we may gain knowledge in order for people to know their rights. And then he also mentioned that it's important that as humans that we've been raised in a different society. Hello.
You can continue. There was noise in your background, but I think a colleague in your same group can assist you to present due to time.
Yes, as I was saying, it's very important in order they can teach us about the human rights education, and also for people to gain more knowledge and practical insight about human rights holistically, and the different roles they play and why it's important. For instance, there are boys clubs and girls club. in boys club, it's whereby the girl child can actually share their stories about what do they think about, for instance, gender-based violence. And also in boys clubs, they can also share like different information as in what do they think about this issue that most men are being categorized as abusers. So in ending, the Human Rights Club, they also teach us about the Constitution. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So in summarizing the work we've been doing today, is the fact that it's important that these clubs are set up in schools. I've received quite a few questions as to how to then introduce the whole concept. There's two documents that the Foundation for Human Rights has shared with you. The first one is called Capacity Building on Forensic and Legal Aspects of Gender-Based Violence. You received this one during your workshop you held in Pactonian Hotel around June. And then there is a second document also you received, is called Community Response Model to Address GBV or Gender-Based Violence. Inside there's notes on how to introduce the program in your school and a copy of a letter that you should present to the authorities of the school on this idea. Some schools already have what they call GEM clubs or the so-called Soul City clubs that are there. Others already have eco schools clubs where they're doing food gardens. It's about finding out what exists and then add value. So the listening component comes very important in setting up the club. If you don't have the letters that I'm talking to, well, I can forward it to you, but one or two of the examples of these letters should be in the publications that have just announced their titles to you. And then your role is to be a facilitator, not to impose your views about the human rights situation in the school. Thirdly, to understand the context, what are the issues in those schools, and where can you support the school from a rights-based framework. What we know through this work is that everybody has a need which is related. You might find that the context in the school is that many learners come in the morning with no meals from homes. And then is to finding out what's the reason why learners are not having meals, and then work with the school and the other stakeholders, which is why I have emphasized the fact that the Masibambisane program is a whole community response model that responds to the needs of the communities holistically. The multi-stakeholder forum is one component of the Masibambisane, where if you find that learners are coming to school in majority hungry, therefore you need to work with the TSD and other stakeholders like the Department of Agriculture to provide meals or have a way in which children access meals. The Eco Schools Clubs concept is based on the fact that all schools must grow their own food gardens. And in that way, with the Department of Agriculture, you work together that in the morning, and the Department of Social Development, Department of Health, children can have something to eat while they're actively also participating on ensuring that they are in the food gardens space. And you are there, you don't just send them to the gardens, you are also seeing what they are doing and they are learning, so that at the end of the day, you know that those learners who had a problem of not eating before coming to class, they've had in one-way meals. We work in vulnerable communities. These are schools which are in quintile 1 to 3. Largely 1 to 3 is informal settlements, farm schools, and rural schools, including those that are in townships. Those are quintile 1 to 3, where the nutritional feeding schemes program of government exists. Other schools in these categories, they do get breakfast, but others they don't. Like in Katle Home, where we also having clubs, we set them up under the anti-xenophobia. They are run by young people who are unemployed, and they are trying to do lots of things there. But in those schools where they do get breakfast. So, but other schools, they don't get breakfast. So it's important that you are aware of the context, what resources are available, and how you can add value. Some schools even go to an extent of even giving uniforms. And then that's when we advocate for government, why this is not standardized. This is the data that you need to collect. When you work in each school, you must know the context, you must understand what are the needs of the schools, how you use the stakeholder forum to provide for those needs, to hold them into account, because we spoke about them, the duty bearers. These are the duty bearers, those that are in government and those that are in parastatals or Chapter 9 institutions, that you must hold them into account. Part of the activities of the club will be that learners write letters to these duty bearers and say, look, according to this section of our constitution or the policy on the national food feeding scheme and school uniform, you're supposed to provide 1, 2, 3. Where are they? The campaigning will be just writing those letters even every day, so that we flood them with those letters and make them hear us. That's one way or tool that other organizations like Amnesty International use, letter writing. And be relevant to the context. Don't come and talk about sexual violence if it's not coming from the learners when you engage them in a listening process, because it will offend many, and the teachers who are sometimes in charge of impregnating the learners will then start, victimizing you and seeing your program as irrelevant. While you know that there could be high teenage pregnancy in that school, you may need a softer approach to get into there. So in the next sessions we'll learn about how to then begin the conversations that lead us to the real conversation on sexual violence in schools, which is during COVID, the number of learners that became pregnant from her primary school's age range increased dramatically, which means that the pregnancy was not something that is being caused by being at school, but also within the community where they are, which is why Masibambisane has monitors. So you must make sure that you have monitors that are receiving cases, but also monitor GBVF. So if your model of Masibambisane does not have the component of monitors, does not have the multi-stakeholder forum component, does not have the school component, then you're not doing Masibambisane. You need to come back to the drawing board and talk to FHR about that. Then there's critical consciousness raising. So we're not just doing this because it's nice. Us as we call ourselves facilitators or animators, we must be critical of everything. We must question, why is it happening? What are the root causes? And how can we resolve it? Not as individual, but as the collective, with the people that we're working with. In this incident, in this scenario, it's the learners. Some of us here may not have time to facilitate these groups. So you will need to find someone in your area, either a retired, trusted, underline trusted person, a nurse or a school teacher or an elder who is trusted based on demonstrable record to run the clubs. And then they report to you. These clubs are meant to be places of action and reflection. It's not just coming and telling learners about their rights. It's not what we're doing. We want to learn from the learners what are the issues that are affecting them and how together in this model of Masibambisane we can resolve. And you will know which one will go to the stakeholder, which one will go directly to you as an organization to deal with. And us here, we are that group, which is also part of this listening process. For example, when I visited FAMSA in Pietermaritzburg, I learned that a mother with a son, if they are in an abusive relationship, they are looking for a shelter, they are not going to be accepted, because a young boy of 4 upwards, I think less than 3, you are still accepted. A young boy of 4 upwards as my son is seen as a trigger in a shelter for women. So where do these moms with the boy child go to? Hence, our approach in this school program is that we're focusing on young men and young women, which is the boys and girls or any other gender identities. So we that are not conforming to the notion of gender. So it's all inclusive. Everybody must learn about gender rights and sexual orientation here. And then slowly be progressive to then, in these stakeholders, find a way of having shelters that are inclusive, even if it means the municipality who will be part of this stakeholder, because you map these stakeholders. I'm sure, I'm informed that the current FHR has finished the environmental scan of your projects, especially those that are in the new 18. The old projects who are not part of this, they did their mapping, they have their own stakeholders forum existing. But we hope that when the stakeholders have been mapped, you use them to resolve the issues of shelter that are not inclusive and discriminating mamas with young men in those shelters. Find a way, even if it means if all the mamas with the young men, they have their own separate compound, then it works. We know there's lots of skeleton buildings that are not used in communities that belong to municipality or to some other institution. We must then get into that space. That's our way. Definitely, we must be participatory and be accountable ourselves. Hence, I spoke about, if you can't find time to be in this session today, please indicate, so that our expectations as the first FHR and the expectations of all of you here know that Usindisa cannot be active today. Because what we're doing is not just the individual projects Zolaka is doing alone in SAPRI. We are creating a movement. We're moving from a project to a movement where in my corner, I share what is happening, and in your corner, Lolo, you share. And then later, our bigger picture is that all this, what we're trying to do here is planted across the country, which then goes to the messaging. The public relations, which was presented by one of our comrades here as part of the structure. Communication is key. And I will tell you about the type of communication we need to enter into. And the fact that this education is not neutral, what we're doing. We are not in the fence. We are in the side of those that are vulnerable and affected. We don't talk of them and us. We are one with them. We don't go there with the language of discriminating people, seeing them as poor, quote unquote, because what we might think is poor, as it happened during COVID, where they dug graves for what they thought is poor, then the graves never buried those that were seen to be poor. So you don't go with that language, we go with a humbling approach, full of faith, but build critical leadership that is able to account and respond in a way that is just for people to be, accommodated and be a leader of integrity. We talk a lot about corruption in our country, and personalize that experience. How corrupt are you as an individual as well in small things that you do, so that at the end of the day, when you point fingers to others, the rest should be pointing at you with integrity, to say, I'm pointing one, but the 4 in me, a true reflection of this leader that I'm pointing has been wrong. Peer education is important. This work is going to happen largely between the groups that are in schools, and they are able to hear each other better. We learned from the HIV campaigns that peer-led approaches, people who are sharing the same experience, informal or informal setups with resources, then they can affect or positive change in behavior to a great extent. My last slide talks about communication. How do we communicate this message? Firstly, I spoke about the letter where we introduce ourselves. We'll share this letter with you. It has to be accompanied with a signature, and it has to be scanned and come back to FHR as well, so that we know that the school has endorsed the program before you start your activities. Normally, the structure, we have described it. For example, some clubs have a chair, they have so many numbers of people, they have constitution. Our clubs, if we have scanned and contextualized the environment, we will find that there's already existing clubs. Maybe it's 10 young learners, they are in an eco school club, we work with that. But sometimes we have Learners Representative Council, RCLs, Representative Council of Learners, we will work with them. Or the better method is where each classroom, because most schools have what is called class representatives, then they are normally made of a boy and a girl. They are chosen every year. So they meet sometimes or once a month to look into the challenges of each class. The class reps are the ones, when there's feeding schemes, normally they control that type of activity. When the food comes, they're the ones who make sure that everybody has got a plate and everybody has eaten. They make sure that the dishes are clean, the class is kept clean, everybody's on uniform, they report, they liaise with the teacher in that particular school. So that's basically how today we can take this conversation. But going to communication, your messages, make sure that when they go out there, they are scrutinized. If you're not sure of your messaging, you can send them to the Foundation for Human Rights. We have the Media and Communications Department. Definitely, we need to use social media, which is where most of our children are, but we need consent for images. I think if you don't have a form for them to sign sign off for the consent according to the new law, we need to send that to you so that any image that we post on our social media has been authorized by an adult person who supervises that child, and that helps us to be clear from any legal matter that can come later. I'm not sure if there's anyone with a question. In a month we will meet. We expect you to do two things when we meet. One, that you will have introduced yourself in that school, and the school had signed the letter. That is one. Two, after signing that, you have had one meeting with the club members and you have selected the structure. The structure of a club must have a chair, deputy chair, a secretary, a deputy secretary, and a treasurer at least. So these are fine, and then maybe someone in charge of branding and creative. For example, in one school where we work in not in Katlehong, in Tembisa, under the clubs we're forming on xenophobia, the group that is working with is their groups of creatives. So they dramatize umsebenzi wama clubs. They've formed drama groups, and they use graffiti to promote the message of being in a club, being tolerable, respect other people, and just continue educating others about their rights and responsibilities. If there's no comment, I see there's something on the chat. Lucia is just saying experiencing network problems, but I think it's my last word to say thank you so much for being here. 37 people have stayed. We had 40, initially 42, but we hope that we continue. We'll meet towards the end of September, and the expectation is that we would have had one meeting with the club, and the school also had signed the letter to accept you as the facilitators of these clubs and why they are important. Any questions, words of goodbye? observation. Uhuru?
Hi, everyone. Comrade Sarah, I have met the school and is it possible for three? Because the team they want to work with, but they say now the processes and the rules are saying we should start at the district level. I don't know if maybe you can facilitate in terms of in Gauteng, you talk maybe to the provincial office of Panyaza Lusif. Then Panyaza will tell all our districts. But I have emailed you the numbers of the principal and the vice principal. Thank you.
No problem. I think if there's a specific challenge like what Norma is putting forward is something that we can work with. That's why I said if you have any issue with the human rights clubs in particular, just talk to me. So like thanks, Norma. Zulake, and then Nomboniso.
Hello, everyone. It's just an addition of what I've done. I've been working with the ArcelorMittal Science Center for providing life skills using the LO classes. So it has been easier for me to access the schools with that route of working with the ArcelorMittal Science Center. So I was just saying maybe also other organizations can try and check which organizations that are in partnership with schools in order they can get an access to schools through those organizations.
Thank you very much. I think it was Zelaka sharing. This is best practice learning space. So that's how we measure impact through sharing best practices. I think it's the right direction for the future. That's why we have this, space to share what we are doing and what we can learn from each other. It's a co-learning space. That's how human rights is facilitated. Nombonisa?
Thank you, ma'am. We also visited the 4 schools that have been requested before. We didn't have any problem from those schools were identified, but now we will choose one. We understand that. But I want your advice, because from those schools we were asking for 15 learners from each school. Targeting, like we told them that maybe from each class 3 learners. If we are using grade, we'll take grade 10, because we're not using grade 9 and 12 because we don't want to disturb them. So those classes are going to identify at least three learners from each class. So the 15 learners from the school is too big or small. That's what I'm looking for.
No, Nomboni, so 15 is a good number. So maximum, we're looking at 40 learners per school. And what I like about what you're doing is you're working with the context. What the school says it will work, you should plug into it. And not introduce something that will add burden to the already existing challenges of these schools. Whatever they give you, work with it. 15 is a good number. Up to 40, at least for a nice working club. If 40 is normally a good club has 20 participants, but if you have 40, maybe you can find a way that you have 2 of the same activities for the same purpose, so that the learning happens in an in-depth way. I don't know if there's anyone or it's just time to say goodbye now. My email and phone is there, including the mobile number. which is available on WhatsApp. We are going to form a WhatsApp group of these just schools clubs for FHR, where we will all communicate openly and share things that we think are missing in our coordination and implementation. So thank you very much to those that have given us their numbers so that we can start the WhatsApp group. And I think when we meet in September, we will reflect on the challenges and the successes we have in our engagement with schools. Thank you. Last words.
There are questions on a chat box.
Okay. So youth, I see youth is giving us their email, phone numbers here to be in the group, but preferably it must be on the email. I'm sure our IT can capture. The question is, do we have if there's monthly stipends for those people who are working, who are going to work with Kanyisa? I think what you're saying is that is there going to be a stipend for the people who are coordinating the groups, who are supervising the groups directly? The notion of a club in a school and the person who manages it must be somebody who has time. They might be loafing somewhere and not doing anything. That's a start. That's your criteria that you use. You don't get someone who will want a stipend from you. You get someone who has been loafing, who has extra time. Like in Tembisa, we got an actor or an actress from Scandal. She has plenty of time. She likes the fact that the group is using drama. She's gonna feature them in some of her work in Scandal or in the movies. She likes that. So it's adding value for her time and her CV for doing community work. So those are the people that you start with. The person who will then need a stipend, it's good to have a stipend, but how are we going to sustain a stipend? The group should look beyond that, which is why I like a conversation on sustainability of these clubs, because the clubs should be or are a permanent feature of the school that goes beyond FHR's funding. FHR can give a stipend of 500 today, but after a year, FHR may not have that money because it's also an organization that's donor funded. In case we find someone who needs a stipend, we as a group must find a way, a sustainable conversation on how are we going to keep the stipend going. So when we come back in the next meeting, we should have crystallized and identified those people, and those that will look into the issue of stipend. But how is the stipend going to be sustained beyond FHR? It's a good thing to have a stipend, but does it mean the clubs will be closed when the stipend person is gone? It's a conversation we all need to have together. I see the numbers. I prefer that because my number was on the chat, that all of you send me on WhatsApp your numbers, those that wants to be on the group, but we have been collecting from some of you these numbers via email. We have asked for them, and we have some spreadsheets somewhere where we have put the numbers, but please WhatsApp me. I'm not taking these numbers that are coming here. Please WhatsApp me. My number was on the screen, and some of you might have it. WhatsApp me so that I add you on the group. There's 2 participants that have raised their hands.
Yes.
Yes, then it will be Dagakral after.
Yes, Coco. I just want to get clarity. The information that you just shared with us here, we are also going to get it electronically, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
That's Newton. Good afternoon again.
Hi, Jabu.
So I just want to know we are interested in this program of the school clubs, but the response we received we received a response that we are unable to go through, but we are interested as we attend the training today. So is there any other way maybe we can be featured as well?
So explain, the school you approached said they are not willing to set up clubs.
No, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I'm with Tulisili now. We on the response from the from FHR, I think if I'm not mistaken, we are not accepted. Our application was not accepted.
Or for this new funding cycle.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it was not accepted. And there's 17 people here in this group, 17 organizations that were part of the old Masibambisane program. Some joined in the middle. They applied for the funding, the new funding cycle. They were not accepted. The call was made public, and then people applied, and some complied, and those are the ones that are having the grant now. The 17 don't have the grant. Is the issue that we, as FHR, we are going to look at as to how to support their club activities, because these are the people who gave birth to the bigger project that we are now having, which is funded by the European Union. You were the people who set up the model for how to create Masibambisane. And then when the funding came, it then asked for people to compete with others who were not part of giving birth to this. Then the competition meant that if you meet the requirements of the EU, having audited statements, all the things that they ask for, then you are in the second batch. But we are not leaving behind the old groups, which is why we say to the foundation, let's find some other smaller resources to support the old groups of Masibambisane. I said, sorry to use the old, but the first group that I can call you phase one, who were part of the smaller grant of 20,000 that then showcased that it's possible to work with communities in this model, and therefore the EU was interested in supporting a large scale. So we will look into the issue of the 17 that are not part of the EU.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking that. It's something that I had forgotten to mention.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome. Colleagues, can we say our goodbyes? We thought we'll finish at tier 1, though there was some challenges with the network. Can we say goodbye, Nomboniso?
Bye, goodbye. I'm happy with this conversation. Bye.